welcome back to On the Rebound. Tonight we have the distinct pleasure of talking with Mrs. Bassett-Seguso. From the outside, it seemed like her life was perfect. She came from a prominent family, was a top-ranked professional tennis player, was an actress, and a model. To everyone, it seemed like she had it all, but on the inside, her life was falling apart. Carling Bassett was keeping a dangerous secret. She was the victim of bulimia. Today, Carling Bassett is married to a former American tennis player, is the mother of 4 children, and previously owned a tennis academy in Boca Raton. Hello, and thank you for joining us this evening, Mrs. Bassett.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start at the very beginning. Why did you begin playing tennis?
I come from a really competitive family, and my father, he played tennis as well. So I think that his decision to play tennis was already made for me before I was even born. Around 7, I started taking tennis lessons in the court in our backyard. And around 11, I moved away from home to go to a tennis academy, and that was kind of the start of it all.
You have singled out the influence that your father had in your life. How did he impact your career?
My dad, he was my best friend. He was at every single game, practice, tournament, cheering me on. So when he died, it took a real hard blow to my game. It was our dream to play tennis together, and without him, I found it really difficult to motivate myself. It just wasn't the same anymore.
Wow, losing your father at such a young age must have been very difficult for you. You began seeing Robert shortly after that. Is that correct?
I met Robert, shortly after my dad's death at the French Open, and we got married a year later in '87 when I was 19 years old, and 6 months after that, I had Holden.
After having your first child, you continued to pursue your tennis career. Was that a difficult decision for you? Or did you know you were too young to throw in the towel?
I returned back to the circuit shortly after giving birth, but it just wasn't the same. I wasn't the same physically, mentally, plus my husband, Robert, he was the top player in the world at that time, so he was never around.
Carling, did you ever consider having Robert scale back his career in order to further yours?
No, because I always wanted to have Holden with me. I carried him for 9 months, and I didn't want to be without him. And I didn't mind waking up early to feed him or change his diapers. And let's face it, men don't like changing diapers. So Robert had a really strict schedule and routine, and having Holden would have really messed that all up. So I didn't want Robert to blame us for him not being successful, so that was never really an option.
So this battle between motherhood and tennis lasted for quite some time. But you decided to retire at the age of 26. Was it just too difficult to balance it all?
I don't think it had a lot to do with a mom. I think what ended my career ultimately was my eating disorder. It was something I had struggled with for years. There was so much pressure on me as a young woman, and I was pulled in so many different directions. Instead of just focusing on tennis, I got consumed with modeling, acting. My eating disorder really destructed me emotionally and physically. No one really noticed it though, because I maintained a steady weight, but I was throwing up 22 times a day. When Holden was about 7 months old, we were on the way to a tournament, and I thought I was having a heart attack. They rushed me to the hospital, but it ended up just to be severe anxiety. It was then when I hit rock bottom that I knew I needed to get help. Being hospitalized was actually one of the best things to ever happen to me because it brought the issue into the light, and now my family and friends were all aware of this battle that I was struggling with. It was a huge relief for me because now I didn't have to hide that I was bulimic.
Okay, Carling, if you don't mind me asking, when did your eating disorder start?
It started really young, but from about the age of 16 to 20, that's when it really started to take over my life. I had just been hired by Ford Modeling Agency, and they were putting so much pressure on me to maintain my weight and appearance, and I was also dipping my foot into acting. It all became just a little too crazy for me. I wanted to be perfect, and my eating disorder was my best friend. It was the only thing I felt like I could control at the time.
What was the lowest point for you in your eating disorder?
Well, at one time, I got down to 96 pounds.
How did you regain control from that?
An eating disorder is just a symptom. To control it, you have to go back to what's causing it. For most people, that means slowing down. That's what I did. I had to quit tennis to learn how to function normally again. Nothing is a quick fix, and it took a lot of time. Eating and exercising is still something that I struggle with even to this day. The good thing is, I'm a very positive person, and from this, I grew and I really learned a lot about myself.
What sort of advice would you give to anyone else out there who's also suffering from an eating disorder?
Go get help. It took me so long to go see a doctor. Who knows how my tennis career could have changed had I gone and talked to someone earlier. I could have spent more time on tennis and practicing rather than being concerned about calories and body fat. I also think it's really important to have a strong support system. I never isolated myself. It's important that you're never alone. My friends and family really helped me in what was the hardest fight of my entire life.
That's very insightful for all other tennis players out there. So what did you do after your tennis career ended?
Rob and I moved to Florida and started our own tennis academy. We had 3 more children, and we finally decided to sell our own tennis academy in 1997, and we moved to Bradenton. There, our sole focus is our children and coaching them how to be tennis players just like we were. I've given my entire life to my children, and I'm so proud that they are choosing to do the same thing that Rob and I did. There's no greater joy in life than seeing your children succeed. And I think I finally understand how my father felt when he was coaching me and we were successful together. I am so proud of my children. I feel very blessed.
I guess tennis must just be in your family genes. How does it feel to watch your kids compete? And what kind of tennis parent are you?
I am a very anxious tennis mom. I have to work out all my anxieties on a treadmill before being able to watch my kids play. I hope that one day I can become a tennis spectator rather than a tennis mom and just sit back and relax.
I want to personally thank you for taking the time to talk with us and sharing your story. I truly believe that you're an inspiration for all other tennis players and people with eating disorders. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I wish your kids the best of luck in their next tournaments. That's all for us tonight, folks. Thanks for tuning in to On the Rebound. Join us next time while we talk to Andre Agassi about his troubled past with addiction. Game, set, match.